green octagon where the nicknames are made up and the long shots might just pay up. This is Chronic Combat Conversation.
You know TV's on the mic, flipping names on sight. Renames every fighter, whether wrong or right. Rule with the glasses, rolling up the stash, breaking down the fights while they chase that cash. Parlays, props, dogs, long shots too. Digging in the couch, finding change for the crew. Early week breakdown, Saturday they hit. If you're betting with the boys, then you know this is it. Chronic Combat Conversations. Yeah. Light it up, place your bets, no hesitation. Chronic Combat Conversations. That's right. Green like the herb in the cash in rotation. Oh, names get twisted.
Welcome to Chronic Combat Conversations, a live look at our best bets, picks, and predictions for every UFC event. With your host, TV Scouting MMA, and
the Guru, back again. We're going to Miami, baby. UFC 327. The light heavyweight title is up for grabs. Jiri Prochazka taking on Carlos Ulberg. Should be a fantastic main event. Honestly, I know we say this a lot. This card is a banger. Stacked. Brim to we're filled up. We got some good fights here, guys. I can't wait to break these down, but before we can, we have a very, very special guest in the building. You may recognize him from coaching wrestling. You may recognize him from his analysis over on Roto Grinders. Please make sure you go follow him over on YouTube, Liam Picks Fights, patreon.com/Liam Picks Fights. You guessed it. We've got Liam Picks Fights in the building. What's up, brother?
What's going on, my man? It's good to be back, boys. I'm excited to break down the fights this week. Like you said, it's actually a really stacked UFC card. And although my boy Tatsuro Taira can't claim gold this weekend, which does, of course, downgrade it in my book, still a great night of fights. So I'm excited to break it down with you fellas.
Let's go. I am absolutely excited for this weekend. Just going to be, it's the best card of the year so far. And there might be other ones coming up that might top it. But man, am I excited. Just going to be an absolutely electric time. Yeah, man, it's just going to be like huge fights, back to back to back, top to bottom. We've got experience all around. And I feel like, listen, there's some tough matchups, close lines, but we're going to have some fun breaking these fights down. So before we can get down to business, listen, we're live every single Thursday, exactly at 8 o'clock Eastern. We would never change the time. We would never be late from a different change time that we proposed. Things would never happen like that. And it's definitely would not, but we're good. We're here. We made it. We're ready to party, just as always. So like and subscribe. If you haven't done that, it costs you nothing and you help support the boys. If you're like some friends of the show, right? Our boy John Nucleus hanging out. Make the bookies pay. Maybe you want to support the boys in different ways financially. I understand in this economy, there's a lot going on. World War III on the edge. But what we're here for is the Octagon. So let's get down to what everyone came here for. It's Jiri Bushido Prochazka -112 versus Carlos Black Jag Ulberg -108. I feel like, hello, there he is, John Nucleus, our guy. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you every week. You truly are the sponsor of Chronic Combat Conversations.
I mean, I think John Nucleus came in at a perfect time here. He may have just donated while we're talking about the dog of the week.
It just might be. Now,
you all right, TB? Did you break?
Yeah, we're looking at a -108 here. So at this point, not the largest of the dog options, but yeah, this is an exciting one. And thank you so much, John. We really appreciate your support as always. Jerk Boy in the house. Appreciate everyone in the chat. Do the right thing. Run it up. We've got Black Jag. It makes me think about a certain thing. 60% of the time, it works every time. Even though it's not Black Panther, it's the Black Jag. And yeah, I feel like this fight, as it plays out, the exchanges, the minute by minute, I can't see a way that Ulberg isn't winning those moments as the fight goes on a consistent basis. It's just 5 rounds of it. And it makes me a little scared because Yuri is definitely just this mounting pace and pressure. And even when he's out of it, he's never fully out of it. But the difference about Carlos Ulberg, I think he does a lot better at times when people are on the front foot and he gets to use his counter punching. We don't really see him get as many finishes when he's the one kind of dictating the pace. And I think the Kennedy and Zechiku fight scarred him for life. It's making sure that he doesn't blow his load all the time, just kind of going for it. And we've seen a bit more of a patient and processed Carlos Ulberg. But over 5 rounds, there's going to be scary moments. Yuri's going to come swinging. And, while he could definitely get hurt, man, this is going to be a tough one as the fight plays out. But Guru, like you were saying here, I think just knowing that we've got the more technical striker, someone that is going to be able to land damage. You feeling pretty confident in the Ulberg side too, Guru?
I mean, not only do I like Ulberg in this matchup, but TB, we have a ticket on Carlos Ulberg to be champ at the end of the year at plus 800. So This is a position that we like. I think that Yuri Prochazka, I know that he is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. And I know that he's popular for that reason, right? So you have to imagine that on some level, in some way, the public is pushing this line on Jiri, right? They're pushing it closer to even. And I feel like when you look at Carlos Ulberg, right, and you look at this matchup, he's got the durability advantage, right? He's got the ability to – his game is just a little bit more – and when I say diverse, obviously Jiri is way more unorthodox. But I'm thinking in the way that Carlos is going to be able to stand, utilize his leg kicks, and utilize the space of the octagon. I feel like his style is more conducive to winning a smart fight, right? Jiri lacks defense. So I imagine that when this fight gets to round 2, round 3, round 4, Jiri's going to be hurt. That leg is going to be, compromised, and it's going to make it difficult for him to land the power shots that he needs. So I do think that Carlos Ulberg is safety first, right? Safety first kind of guy. So this fight could extend out a little bit, but I like Carlos Ulberg to outpoint and beat Jiri Prochazka. It could be a late finish. It could just be a decision, neither of which would surprise me. But when I got plus 115 on Carlos Ulberg, I feel like I did my job. Liam, please, are we riding on the right side here with the Black Jag, or is it Bushido time? Does he finally get coveted gold once again?
Well, I can tell you guys, I've done a lot of betting on Jiri Prochazka fights to basically break even over time. And, part of that tells me maybe I don't have the best read on this guy. I had Dom Reyes, I think, at plus money, and Reyes knocked him out in that fight and then just went on to die. So, that was the unfortunate problem for him there. But then when you look at, Yuri's fight against Glover Teixeira, I had a max bet 10 units on Yuri because I was like, I just don't see any way he's going to lose this fight to a 40-year-old. And guys, he tried to lose the fight 50 different times. And, he kept finding ways back into it because the guy has a never say die attitude. But, we have definitely seen you can hurt Yuri. You can hit him hard. You can knock him out. That doesn't mean you'll win, right? That's one of the weird quirks about Yuri is that he'll just get back up and keep fighting you after you knock him out. But when you look at a guy like Carlos Ulberg on the other side, not a spring chicken, but I feel like a lot has been made of that this week. I think the more important distinction is not that Ulberg is like older, he's 35 compared to 33. I do always look for fighters that are the younger fighter with more experience. And Yuri was a world champion in Ryzen before he came to the UFC. Right? He was a guy that was fighting at a very high level. There's a reason, people say like, why does this guy keep getting title shots? It's like, well, look at his path in the UFC. He won a couple fights via brutal knockout where they're like, okay, it would be irresponsible for us to put him in there with guys that are not top level guys. Now, unfortunately for him, his warrior spirit got him in there with Pereira twice. And that's just a bad deal for anybody. So when you look at where he's ended up, I thought he was going to win those fights with Pereira. I thought he was going to wrestle. I thought he was going to grapple. The guy is just, he's really about that life. He's like, I'm willing to swing and go blow for blow with you on the feet, even when I'm getting hit. And I go back, and one thing I do for research is I just go back and look at my old tweets. And, it's because I'm tweeting live during the fights. I'm giving like my thoughts right as I see it. And then obviously I can go back and compare. But I looked at that last fight with Prochazka, and I said that he forgot how to fight. And he still won the fight, and that's awesome. But like, it was a horrible performance in many ways. And like, his attempts at being technical and defensive were mostly just him getting hit, and I do think that that's a problem, right? But on the other side, like, I think you can look at this fight two ways, and that's why it's a pick'em fight, which is you can look at Ulberg and say like, hey, he's the better, fighter. Like, he's better at this. He should win. But then if you just say like, you lock these two guys in a phone booth, who's going to come out alive in that kind of situation? You just feel like Yuri Prochazka just has this ability to win, close exchanges. Like, him submitting Glover Teixeira just doesn't make any sense, except that he just never stops. He never quits. He never dies. And then if you give him one opportunity, he'll take it and take everything from you. And that's kind of always been his MO. And that's even what he's doing in these fights where he looks terrible. It's just like, hey, you gave me an opportunity, and that was too much. One opportunity, it's over for you. And that, I think, is the risk in this fight. Personally, I feel more comfortable with unders in general than I do with either side in this fight. And that's just because of how I think Yuri approaches fighting. Again, like, if I expected him to go out there and try and put on this really technically sophisticated game plan and look to take him down and exploit the fact that, he's at all these MMA fights and Ulberg's just a kickboxer, it's like, I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to go out there and exchange with him. I think if the fight goes to the ground, he's like, fine. But if it doesn't, fine. I fight. We find out. I just think he's going to do that. And I think that that's a huge risk against Ulberg, but I also think that Yuri's live to knock out any man at 205 pounds doing that, So maybe with the exception of Alex Pereira. And I think, again, if you look at the stats here, I really respect Nate's work. I think it's really great data to look at, period. I hope everybody does. I certainly do on a week-to-week basis, but, if you're a stats guy, you're going to go with Ulberg here for sure. And I think that if you are an aura guy, you're going to go with Yuri. And I think either one of them can win. So I'm probably going to bet either the under 2.5 or the under 3.5 if I get involved with this fight, because I just see the way Yuri fighting producing a finish in this fight for one guy in spectacular fashion.
I think you're exactly right with that, Liam, in the fact that, like I said, Carlos Ulberg is risk averse, but Yuri is going to force that action, which A, will either get him the finish or B, cause him to get finished. So I completely agree with that. And the one thing, TB, that either of us didn't talk about, that of course Liam did get to touch on a bit, was that Khalil Roundtree fight. Guys, we smashed Khalil Roundtree. That was one of my confident plays. We had Khalil Roundtree and Khalil Roundtree by decision. I mean, we thought we're cruising. And Khalil Roundtree, and it's why I had finally come around on him, but it was my big knock on him is just, he's just that guy that will snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, a Michael Johnson type, if you will. So I in this fight, I don't think that Carlos Ulberg is the guy that's going to flub and mess this up. I understand that people have had, and rightfully so, the cardio concerns with him. But I mean,
this
honestly,
is the only one, though. This was the only one, and he lands like 100 strikes in one round.
And boys, it's his UFC debut, and he's 3-0 at the time. He's like 3-4-0 at the time, right? Like, he's a very inexperienced fighter. Kennedy's fucking.
Will he be able to resist Yuri just giving him targets though? Because like Yuri's gonna be like, hit me right now as hard as you can, do it again, and like he's gonna try and force that. So, if Ulberg is able to just skirt and use footwork and everything, I'll take my hat off to the guy. But I do think like Yuri's going to make you answer the question. And like, that might be him getting served, I'm pretty sure Mo Lawal back in his Rising days sent him to hell once, where he was just running in, going crazy, like all offense. And, if you're all offense all the time, you're going to get spilled every so often, but you're also going to give yourself chances. So that's why I think this is such a great main event.
Correct.
Oh, well, the last counter to this before we get moving on is one, it was the second round, and it was 3 minutes into the second round. He landed 146 strikes on 227 attempts. Yuri's never done that in a fight.
Never.
And that was in 1.5 rounds trying to murder Kennedy and Zechiku. Yes,
Yeah.
he was like 3-0 at the time. The guy's got to learn. King Mo, never forget. Thank you. That's another time that Yuri Prochazka got knocked out. I still, like, listen, we're going Carlos Ulberg time. He can throw the head kicks too. He's going to go calf kick. He can throw some head kicks. I think he's got some good counters. It's going to be a fun time. And if we lose, we get to see another Yuri Prochazka knockout. And that would actually probably, it's going to pay the cost of what it, was to bet against him. So it'll be a fun time. That's the pay-per-view right there. You're paying the cost of the pay-per-view. So, all right, we're moving on. We've got Azamat, the professional, Murzakanov, -205 versus Paulo, the eraser Costa, +170. The question for Paulo is why? Why did you pull out of the Bruno fight and now get booked the next numbered event at a weight class higher? And you're going back to the real answer is that you just don't fight often enough. And the UFC, if they want you to fight on a numbered event, you're going to take the opportunity because your base pay is probably really solid. So I get it, Paulo Costa. It's just the more I keep thinking about it is like, and Guru's going to give the real play here. But I was like, Paulo's going to have more volume. He's faced, a higher level of competition. He probably has better cardio. It's not easy to just take him down and hold him down. But at the end of the day, Murzakanov, he's a bit of a sniper. And he's got a ton of power. He's a southpaw. He's tricky. And, the threat of that power and the inability of Paulo Costa to move his head, there's like a 17% difference in their head striking defense. And that right there is probably what makes the difference over the course of this fight. And Paulo could push a pace. Maybe he takes round 3. It's probably Murzakanov. But Guru, can you please tell the people what you were thinking? Because I think we got to go this way.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not the Paulo Costa side, no matter how much I am tempted and can understand it. It's like he's just not a serious fighter. And while he's shown like his ability to go 5 hard rounds or land over 100 strikes in a fight, it's just like he just seems like the guy that rises to the level of his opponent, if that makes sense. Like if you bring the fight to him, yeah, he'll get into a dogfight, but if you give him Luke Rockhold and Yoel Romero not doing anything, he'll just take a shit all over the place. Like he just doesn't, he's just unserious, which is what we love about him. It's what makes him a fantastic personality. He's hilarious. One of the probably top 5 funniest fighters in the UFC. Hilarious. But this guy Azamat, man, it's like, why are they giving him Costa? Because it's like, that Azamat really is not going to beat the top 3 guys in the division. And, might as well continue to roll this undefeated streak on a little bit longer, give him somebody with name value. So to me, our best bet, how I'm feeling, and maybe it is crazy. I really don't think so. I got fight goes the distance at +100. I don't see Costa getting a finish, like, at all. I mean, his last UFC finish was Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall in 2018. He's not getting a finish here. And Azamat, again, he's knocked out. I mean, basically almost everybody except for Dustin Jacoby, right? I don't necessarily think that he's going to be only the second guy in the UFC to finish, or maybe ever to finish Paulo Costa, just being prime Izzy. So could I see it? Is it possible? Yeah, but Costa's chin and all those steroids, I don't know that you're just going to one-shot him. It would have to be attritional. And I think if it extends out, that Azamat's just kind of a guy that'll look to survive and make sure that he does win. So I'm going to go fight goes the distance. And I'll probably just be clenching my butt cheeks for about 15 minutes. Liam, how are you feeling on this one? Does the O got to go or what?
Well, I have to acknowledge first that I haven't done as much film on the main card because I have to write about that tomorrow. I had to write about the prelims today, so I've done much more tape on some of those preliminary fights. But obviously, the main event, like those fighters like the back of your hand. Mirzakhanov's one of these guys. He kind of only fights once a year, but he goes out there and kills somebody, and then just like disappears into his hole again. He comes back and kills somebody again, and he's really good at it. He's recorded one knockdown in every fight since the Contender Series, 7 fights in a row. This guy's knocked somebody down, and in 6 of those cases, he knocked somebody out, right? And obviously, Dustin Jacoby, a guy who's very tough, a guy who comes from a kickboxing background, he was able to survive some bad spots. But, that was also a great win, right, for Mirzakhanov, because Jacoby's one of the most productive finishers in the light heavyweight division. Paulo Costa is just not proven in this light heavyweight division. Last time out, I actually bet Paulo Costa. He's another one of these guys. I think I've bet let me see if Bet MMA will tell me. I bet, $600 and something on Paulo Costa fights over my lifetime, and I've won $25. So, barely the cost of doing business on Mr. Paulo Costa. And that's because I bet him as an underdog when he was fighting guys that were really top quality, and he just kept losing, right? Like the Strickland fight and the Whitaker fight. And I kind of expected him to break through there. Meanwhile, he did almost knock out Robert Whitaker. I think that should be, brought back up in the record. He spinning head kicked him nearly out of his shoes, but Whitaker, he's dog tough as well, was able to dig it out the mud. I think that when 2 guys this big are swinging and exchanging, I do think somebody could get clipped and knocked out, so that's the worry there, right? I think it's more likely to be Mirzakhanov to knock out Paulo Costa, just because this guy's power is as proven as it gets, right? Like, you just can't knock people down 7 times in a row by accident. And it's not like every guy he fought on that list is like terrible, right? But the thing that is concerning about laying a minus 200 or so price tag with a guy like Mirzakhanov is he was behind on the strike count against Stefan Chukwi, right? 43 strikes to 28 at the time of the knockout. Guys, I bet Azamat Mirzakhanov that night. And was I fired up that we got it done? Absolutely. Have I ever bet on him since then? No. And I think that's just because it left a permanent scar on me where I was just like, this guy kind of needed to get a little bit of good fortune there to win the fight. And I bet minus 143 in that spot, right? Stefan Chukwi did not have a very good UFC career, as it turned out. And so, again, you don't want to hold that against him forever. But against Rakic, he was down 9 strikes to 3, at the time he knocked him out. And again, nice knockout, great job. I think it's possible he knocks out Paulo Costa, but that's the one thing that's been really difficult to do. He's been knocked down twice in his UFC career. Once was Yoel Romero. That guy's still knocking people out at 45 years of age in every promotion he goes to. He just does special things, right? He comes out of retirement in wrestling and is tech falling guys that are in proximity to world team and national team spots. It's just that's unbelievable. So I think that freak athlete, and by the way, Paulo won that fight, right? Close decision, controversial decision. They both knocked each other down, as a matter of fact. So you look at Paulo, he can swang and bang. He hasn't really been as much involved with that lately, but he went out there and kind of technically out kickboxed Roman Kopylov last time out. And I bet him there because I was like, maybe we can mix in some takedowns and maybe we could just tough it out and swing with him and throw some more volume. And that's kind of what it came down to at the end of the day. I think Mirzakhanov is a lot less likely to fold Kopylov kind of is more willing to break under pressure. Whereas I think Mirzakhanov is just waiting for his opportunity. And even if he gets behind on the strike count, I think he's still live to kind of at any point, turn the tables on Paulo and hit him really hard and win the fight. But the older you get, the harder it is to pull it out the mud late, right? Early, we still know Mirzakhanov can bang, but the guy's dealt with some suspensions. I believe on the drug front, they're both comparing their secret juice cocktails and who's superior, right? So I think that, Paulo Costa, if you're going by the look, the eye test, Paulo Costa's got the better secret juice, my brother. And I think that Mirzakhanov is the better fighter. But, the one thing that steroids can buy you is a better chin in some of these cases, right? We've seen guys that went from not taking a great punch to all of a sudden they're just walking through shots. Well, how did that happen? And then you just see their jaws getting bigger and everything about their head is increasing in size. And you're like, oh, okay. I'm figuring it out as we go. And, I think that, again, both these guys are probably going to have their supplements, but Paulo's 2 years younger. He's a little bit bigger despite the fact he's coming up in weight here. So I think both these guys have a chance to win. And in that kind of fight, it does make it a little bit more of a dog or pass situation for me, but I almost feel better about trying to live into Paulo. I think he might start a little slow here. I would be tentative of the power, but if he's able to land a couple of those body kicks and maybe sap some of that energy for Mirzakhanov, I think he can make it an honest fight for himself. And Mirzakhanov's a really good wrestler, but you'd never know it by watching his fights in the UFC. He doesn't do it. He doesn't really push it. He kind of just uses it to stay upright and keep fighting on the feet. So I think Mirzakhanov, super dangerous guy. But again, I talked about that, an angle that I've always kind of looked for, the guy with more experience in MMA, and he's the younger guy. It's Paulo Costa, as a matter of fact, and in the UFC too. Yeah. So I think that the fact he's going up to 205 is the X factor that makes me kind of just want to stay away from this. But if these guys were going to fight at middleweight, all the same circumstances, I'd probably be leaning towards a bet on Costa in these circumstances. So
take me to decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense because I mean, when you talk about just a price standpoint, right? When he's fighting Alexander Rakic last fight, he's plus 100. You got him as coin flip dog. Now he's 2-1, and he's still got some of those anthropomorphic disadvantages that you're talking about, right? Some of the chiseled out physique, size, height and reach, that kind of thing. Which, by the way, he was losing in spades to in those things to Tefan and Chukwe. Which, yes, he does pull it out miraculously. But again, just like I had kind of said in the last fight with Black Jag, it's his UFC debut, boys. Right? Like, it's okay to like struggle when you first see those bright lights, especially if you're gonna pull it out. So
we don't advocate pulling out. All right,
no,
we're moving along. Oh boy. Oh boy. And this is why our guest is a mediator in the middle, because it's about to get ugly in the Guru and TB household.
We've been fighting all fucking week. And it's not like I have any, TB has a strong conviction, and I don't know that I do per se. I've just been annoyed with how strongly TB has felt about it. So let's get ready to rumble right here. I don't know where TB is again.
You listen here, Guru.
Oh my God.
You listen here. You're going to have a problem on Saturday night. I'm going to show you what the meaning of a bad time looks like. Vato, you're not going to want to live on this earth anymore.
I'm shocked. I'm floored.
Right,
I had no idea that this was coming.
I blacked out. What happened?
That was crazy.
Right.
I think
all right, so anyway,
Josh Hokit is just on the show. Guys, we had Ayman Zahabi last week. We got Josh Hokit on this week. It's impressive stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty great. All right, so listen, I mean, ultimately, the moral of the story is sometimes you can use your mouth to talk your way into opportunities that your body's not necessarily ready for. And Josh Hokit, while the one thing I've been impressed about his fighting style is the pace, the movement, and the pressure, it's just like, all right, buddy, like, we saw Max Jimenez, okay, like, cue the, what is it, that don't impress me much music, right? Like, get the Shania Twain going. Then the next fight, we're looking at Denzel Freeman. I'm sorry, once again, we're not even seeing an actual knockout. It was a middle finger that led to the TKO. It was Denzel Freeman deciding not to do his cardio that led to the TKO. We're not talking about a one-punch knockout power generational puncher. So let me go take a look at how Curtis Blaydes has lost fights at the UFC level, right? There's been 5 losses. Every single time that Curtis Blaydes has lost a fight in the UFC, it's been to a generational, gigantic power puncher, or Derek Lewis. I know he's not gigantic, but he's a generational power puncher. And actually, what happened in that fight? If you look at the first 6 minutes of the fight, Curtis Blaydes is outlanding Derek Lewis 28-7. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to wrestle. And he eats an uppercut from hell, travels back to the Mesozoic era, starts yelling like a caveman on the mat. And I get it. It's scary, okay? And now Curtis Blaydes doesn't wrestle enough because he stared at Sergey Pavlovich. Do I blame him for that? Sergey Pavlovich is basically the white version of Francis Ngannou. He was having PTSD. Like, I don't blame him at all, okay? And then what? Okay, so 2 Francis Ngannou fights? All right, fair enough. Like, once again, I don't blame him at all for any of these. So then, okay, does Josh Hokit fit the bill? Can he do what Tom Aspinall, Sergey Pavlovich? Oh, yeah, I didn't talk about Tom Aspinall. Tommy Aspinall, come on. Derek Lewis, like, can he do what all these guys have done and land that seminal blow that just sends Curtis Blades into a disaster state? And if you're going to tell me you're worried about his wrestling, I think Rizvan Kuniev is one, he's a true heavyweight. 265 pounds, you couldn't make that guy make light heavyweight. Whereas Josh Hokit, I think he's going to have to find out how it goes cutting weight to light heavyweight after these next few fights, because he's going to be up against it. Dana White said, hey, buddy, you want to keep talking dumb shit? Here's your opportunity, okay? Let's get a ton of content for UFC 327. You're going to go out and listen. If you win, great. That's awesome for the UFC. And if you lose, isn't that almost even better? Now, Curtis Blades, every single fight he's in is a lose-lose situation. He's not a title contender. He's not favored by Dana White. He's not even really like a top 5 guy at this point. But what he is, he's got high-level cardio. He's got high-level pace. He's got legitimate striking at this point. For a guy that entered the UFC as a pure wrestler, this is someone that's been landing knockouts with his hands against guys that, we thought would give him trouble on the feet. So Curtis Blades, come out here, get the job done. You've got a 3-inch height advantage. You've got a 7-inch reach advantage. And I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to use it to land your jab at distance, hurt Josh Hokit like he's never been hurt before. And as this guy goes in to shoot takedowns, he's going to realize what it's like when you're actually fighting a real heavyweight and not just an overblown light heavyweight like Denzel Freeman and Max Jimenez. Like, this is a totally different animal. You can't just kick off the cage and try to ragdoll the guy down to the ground when his name is Curtis Blades. You're not Jonathan Almeida, okay? You're not just going to land crazy amount of takedowns. And even in that fight, what does Curtis Blades do? He gets back up and he forces you to keep working. His cardio is not an issue, and I don't think his chin is an issue. I've got Curtis Blades here. I cashed out multiple times because if you're going to give me plus money, if you're going to give me even money, this is egregious. So, all right, tell me why I'm wrong. You guys, you can yell at me, and when Curtis Blades dies in the first round, I'll be here next week so you can all yell at me again. But I'm taking Curtis Blades for 1 unit.
Yeah, I mean, you make a lot of good points, and the truth is that Josh Hokit doesn't have that knockout power, right? He doesn't have that one-hitter quitter ability, not that I've seen. But my problem with Curtis Blades is I don't know that he needs it. TB, I get it. Like, you're getting knocked out by a bazooka every time. I understand, but Rizvan Kuniev didn't have the cardio. Jalton Almeida is winning that fight till he's losing, albeit through different means. Chris Daukaus, I mean, my God, doesn't belong here. I get it. I totally get it. It's just really, really nerve-wracking, honestly. Josh Hokit's pace, cardio, it is impressive. And you just wonder if Curtis is going to use his clearest path. Because I just think if it's standing at distance for a long period of time, I just don't really know that Blades is going to be winning. I really don't. I'm just not sure. But we've seen solid heavyweights just recently that we were raving about their pressure and their pace not necessarily live up in Steve Asplund, right? Not able to kind of keep that going when you have to mix in wrestling and you have to fight more, to TB's point. So it's all very, very close. And I just find myself scared. That's all. Because it's just like you feel so dumb when it could be as obvious as, well, round 1, round 2 knockout for Hokit. Like, it's, plus 360 or plus 380. Like, he could just get brained at any point. But if he's going to mix in some wrestling, if he's going to stay smart, who knows? I just feel like that's never been Curtis's life. And by the way, how have we never seen Curtis Blades versus Cyril Gane? Like, I want to see that fight. Why haven't we had that fight? Liam, please tell us what's happening here.
Well, I'm not sure I could do that, but I can certainly give you my best view of it. This is a fight that I've really been looking into a bunch, and it's because, number one, it's a wrestling fight, so that intrigued me, right? Both these guys have really very solid wrestling credentials, right? Curtis Blades was a junior college champion. He was a state champion in high school, had an undefeated season. And that's really impressive stuff. I believe he did that in the state of Illinois, a very respected wrestling state. And then you look at Josh Hokit, comes out of California. Our guy Shady in the chat, shout out to Uncle Shady. He's talked about all his credentials. He listed him out in the chat, but I can remind some folks he was an All-American for Fresno State. I posted the video of blue hair Bo Nickel, pinning him at the national tournament. But I also pointed out that, that was when Bo Nickel was on a generational run, through the national tournament. And Josh Hokit is playing football in the fall, and then he's running out there in the wintertime with these guys that train year-round and do freestyle and do all this stuff. And he's giving them a run. He's getting placement at the national tournament, and then he's getting looks in the NFL. So I think, as far as wrestling goes, slight pedigree edge to Josh Hokit as far as I'm concerned. Slight. Obviously you got to give credit where it's due to Curtis Blades. He stopped a little bit earlier in his journey potentially as well. But you look at what Hokit accomplished, just a little bit more accomplished. Then you look at, okay, what about their athletic pedigree? Again, there's nothing wrong with the athletic pedigree of Curtis Blades. And look how it's translated to the UFC. The guy's a very, very solid fighter, a top 10 fighter, a guy who's been around for a very long time, doing it at a high level. But then you look at, okay, who's the more credentialed or the more pedigreed athlete? I would also push that edge over to Josh Hokit's side. I think that when you talk about fighting, one of the most important things to me is timing. We're going to talk about a bunch of fights on this card where I think timing is really important. I could still be wrong, but I think that you look at some fighters and they look different in the past, and you can't always believe your lying eyes, because it's like they're not going to show up looking like that anymore. They haven't recently, and it's unlikely that they're going to turn over a leaf and become their old self again. It's like that's hard to do. And I will point out the Kuniev fight, right? I'm going to pull up UFC stats so I just make sure.
That was a bad look. I thought Kuniev won that. I mean, it was close. It's a bad looking fight.
Yeah, man. And if you look back at that, right, the first round was where Curtis got 2 takedowns. He got 3 minutes of control time against Kuniev. Kuniev defended some shots well. He was doing okay. He was landing some stuff on the feet, but then he got taken down. He got controlled, right? And when you look at Curtis and what he was able to do there, he was not able to replicate it in the later rounds. He's revealed in interviews that it's because he blew his knee for the second time in his career, and he had to get a surgery on his knee. That's why he hasn't fought since the Kuniev fight. If you look at MMA decisions, the media scores were for Kuniev. The fan scores were for Kuniev. One of the 3 judges assigned scored 2 of the 3 rounds for Kuniev. And when you look at Kuniev, he was not given an opportunity after winning on Contender Series, if my memory serves. And then he had to come back and do it again and win again to get even into the UFC. And then obviously they put him into some real fights right off the rip. But you go back and, okay, well, Curtis didn't have a great performance against Kuniev, got his hand raised in the end. All right. Then we look back at the fight before that. I was certain that Jailton Almeida was going to take down Curtis Blades. That was my analysis for the fight, and it was why I believed Jailton was going to win the fight. And unfortunately, Jailton took him down 9 times and did nothing with it. And that was really frustrating to watch. And it's because it felt like Jailton didn't understand that they're fighting, right? This is not a grappling match. You're not going to hurt him by applying, pressure from the back mount. I think the difference with a guy like Josh Hokit is that he could also take down somebody like Curtis. But if he gets on top of Curtis, he is not going to look to secure the back. He's going to punch him as hard as he can in the face. And then he's going to grab his wrist and he's going to do it again. And that's what Josh Hokit does in the top position. Now, I'll also point to the fact that Josh Hokit is young in his career. And so you're in a credentials versus potential matchup. Shout out to our guy, Yanni the Greek, for that great saying. And I'm sure he heard it from someone else. But when you look at what we have on paper here, it's like the potential of Josh Hokit is really high. And when you look at guys in the heavyweight division, what are the things that normally suck about heavyweights? They're slow. they have no real skills, and they get tired. And it's like, what did Josh Hokit put on tape? Because we can't judge things that we don't know. But what can we see on tape? He went 3 rounds in an early fight, very early in his career. And he was getting takedowns every round. He was looking fresh, and he got the finish in round 3. It's like, okay, bullish signal for me. I like that, right? I liked his pace and cardio on tape coming into Contender Series. So then I was like, okay, now we got to see him against a grappling guy. And he dummied him, right? He just kind of beat him up mostly on the feet. And it's like, oh, okay, he's getting a little bit more comfortable out there. And he still takes big risks, and he takes some chances, and he does some things wrong. He's a young fighter. He does live on the edge a little bit. But if you look at Curtis, the big knockouts of his career, they're against elderly gentlemen, and then Mr. Dawkins. I was in attendance. Shout out. Columbus, Ohio. Right? I was there. Awesome knockout. Shout out to Curtis Blades. Great memory. But where's Dawkins been? He's not on this level anymore. Right? And personally, if you just said, like, is Josh Hokit capable of beating Dawkins? Like, I think you would run him for his paper. So when you look at, okay, how do these two guys match up? A surgically repaired knee from Curtis Blades against the relentless pressure of Josh Hokit. I don't love that, right? Especially when I'm being asked to lay the chalk on it. And on the other side with Josh, again, there's some unknowns and there's some risk, but I like the bullish indicators. Who has submissions on their record? The guy with all the UFC fights? Nope. Curtis Blades, for all the time he's spent in the octagon, has never submitted an opponent. Josh Hokit's submitting people, and he's a couple fights deep in a professional career. He's attacking people on the ground relentlessly with ground and pound. That opens up submissions. Curtis Blades relies a lot more on controlling positions, and he's either striking with you on the feet or, unless he can get to a really dominant position on the ground, he's more focused on keeping that control. I'll point back to another fight that I feel like people have memory hold. Jairzinho Rozenstruik loses at 30-27 on all 3 scorecards. But he nearly got the finish there because Curtis Blades' eye was as big as a balloon. And it was like the dude kind of wears damage not so good. Why did it look like Kuniev was winning when he was getting outlanded by 40 strikes? Because Curtis's face is swelling and it's bleeding, and it's like things don't look good when he gets hit. Like some guys can get hit a million times and they wear it well. And other guys, they get hit and they show the damage and it doesn't look great. And so when you can get those relentless, easy takedowns and just sit on top of people, it doesn't matter if your face is busted up and cut. But it's like, if you're getting taken down and your face is busted up, even if it goes 15 minutes, I'm not sure that Curtis Blades won the fight. Like, I think Josh Hokit can go out there, land shots on the feet, maybe mix in some takedowns, maybe defend some takedowns, and win the fight by just outpointing him, even if it's ugly, even if it's close. 100%. And when you look at the durability indicators, I don't know on the Hokit side. It's the devil you know and the devil you don't. It's like, I know that when Curtis gets hit, he might go to sleep. I know that when Curtis gets hit, he might, have bad damage and markings on his face that don't look so good for the judges. And I don't really see all that on the Hokit side. So I think for me, after doing the research, after running the tape, I'm setting myself up to be disappointed again. But I don't like the Josh Hokit gimmick. I've said it from the beginning. I even said, like, it'd be kind of funny when this guy loses. But I just have to try and call the fights the way I see them. And I thought that Josh Hokit was going to run Freeman for his paper. And he did it way faster than I thought. I thought it was going to be a round 2, round 3 cardio. But, dude, literally – that guy was an LFA champion. I know Denzel Freeman's out of favor because he put on that stinker with Marek Bujlo and then ran for his paper. But if you go back and look at the fights before, dude, he took Asplund, who everybody loves, to the woodshed. He ran him for his paper in the same way Hokit ran him for his paper. That's levels. And you just look, it's like, I think Josh Hokit might be able to go out there and out-wrestle Curtis Blades, and that doesn't happen to Curtis in the UFC, right? So it's like, if he can out-wrestle him, what if he can outstrike him too? What if he can knock him out? It's like, yeah, give me the upside on Hokit. And if he loses here, he'll have died a villain. But that's fine with me. I think that this is the kind of fight where I'm buying into the upside on Hokit.
Let's go, brother. We got a Josh Hokit bet over here. Let's go.
God bless. Good luck.
TB, I'm going right.
And we're
I'm
going
so
to
happy
fucking fight.
to go against you. We're gonna fight. You're not even gonna know what's coming. We're gonna fight.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. All right. Now we've got Dominic the Devastator Reyes minus 148 versus Johnny Blue Label Walker. With every loss or every win, he either goes up or down the label scale. So we got a long way to go to get all the way up to the top labels, Johnny. But, keep fighting, brother. Keep fighting. Hey, listen, great job over there against Zhang Ming Yang. With Dominic Reyes coming back.
Dude, that fight pissed me off so fucking much.
Yeah.
We literally said it. We're like, Fading Zhang is coming. I'm telling you, it's coming. But it could be here, but maybe not. And it was there. And I'm so mad.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, listen, I mean, in this fight, it's just who can land impactfully first? Because I know neither of them can take it. So, and listen, I know sometimes we want to get tempted and be like, oh, build a ladder to decision. Let's take it
I'm
over.
like kind of thinking it. How many times have we seen? How many times have we seen this fight? Hamzat Chimaev, DDP, right? Plus 700 to go to this. How many times? You're probably right.
I'm good.
We've even seen it. We've even seen it with a Johnny Walker fight. It was the which fight was that?
The Tiago fight.
Thank you.
Yeah, but ultimately, Tiago is a kickboxer.
And it happened. Sorry, then I'll shut up. I swear. And then it was the Anthony Smith fight as well. I'm done.
All right, cool. Ultimately, Dominic Reyes, the thing that he doesn't do that all those guys do is he gets in the pocket and he engages. He throws boxing combos. He's not just going to kickbox at range and whatever. And that's for better or for worse. We saw it works out in your favor when you're fighting Dustin Jacoby. Doesn't work out quite as well when you're facing Black Jag or other recent KO losses. But I think he's got it here. The things that worry me is if he gets touched on the way in, Walker's still explosive. He's still got that touch and chin of Dominic Reyes. Do I really trust it? No, I don't. But the most likely scenario on either side is a round one knockout either way. And you could play fight doesn't start round two if you're feeling extra spicy. But if I had to pick a side of who I think wins more often than not, I think they got it right on the money line. Dom Reyes should be a slight favorite. He's more technical. He's going to have the better defensive tendencies, but neither of them are really good at it. So, yeah, it's fireworks. It's early. And I think it's going to be Johnny Walker devastated.
I don't know why I'm feeling I'm almost feeling a Johnny Walker vibe. I'm really going to have to. I'm going to have to think about it because the truth is at knee-jerk reaction, I'm Dom Reyes. At kind of coin flip odds more where it opens, I'm Dom Reyes. Oh. As you continue to tell me that the line piles on to Dom Reyes, I just start to think, why? Dom Reyes is a guy that's gotten knocked out more recently than Johnny Walker. Dom Reyes is a guy that hasn't.
Well, that depends if you count training, but.
Oh, geez. He got knocked out. Who did he get knocked? You heard he got knocked out in training?
He basically did an interview where he was like, I got hit with very hard uppercut and I had to change my training. Make sure I don't get hit anymore. I was like, okay.
All right. Well, so they rung his bell a little bit. It happens. I imagine it happens to everybody.
I'm sure that Dominic Reyes also got rocked in sparring.
He gets. They both.
I think they both. Probably just hit the heavy bag most days, if you know what I mean.
Listen, Liam, they're both getting knocked out by the shower in the morning. It turns on, they're like, oh shit. So not great chins here, but that's kind of my whole point. What you've seen from Johnny Walker, at least again in his most recent fight with Zhang, there's a war there. There's exchanges happening there. Dom Reyes didn't have to trade with Nikita Krylov. Krylov ran into 3 straight punches and died. Anthony Smith was retiring on his way out, was never in that fight from the second it started. Dustin Jacoby, that fight was honestly supposed to look a little bit more interesting. He just brained him. It was awesome. It was his most impressive of his 3-fight win there. It really was. He could very easily die here. So I don't know how you can play chalk on Dominic Reyes and feel good. I've done that already when he, came back versus Ryan Spann. I'm chilling. So dog or pass? And I love clenching my butt cheeks. So 7.5 minutes is also interesting to me. If you were at the Minion Zhang fight, you'd cash your bet by 7 seconds. So, I mean, are you telling me at plus 145, are you telling me fight to start round 2 is plus money? Let's pick them. I've done worse things with a unit. I don't know. You guys, take it away.
I can go if you want, or
Go
you
ahead,
can go,
Liam.
brother.
You're up, my brother.
Sure thing, man. I'll be fairly quick on this one and just say, I think Johnny Walker, like if I had to summarize it, is not very good. And I also think that, what he can do is run a reverse marathon, try and be technical on the outside, throw leg kicks, or he can be wild, crazy Johnny. And he was wild, crazy Johnny against Mingyang Zhang, and it turned out great, right? He took some big chances, and eventually he was able to get him out of there. I mean, God bless, that was a big win, right? But if you look back at his 3-fight win streak, his 3 most recent wins, let's call it, right? Because obviously he got knocked out by Volkan and Ankalaev in between. He beat Mingyang Zhang via knockout, a guy who's very unproven in the UFC. But again, hats off, young prospect. He beat Anthony Smith, the same win that we want to invalidate on the Reyes side. Okay, let's just cross it out for both of them. And then Paul Craig, the Bear Jew, right? Went out there and Paul Craig then moved weight classes, retired. Like Paul was on an all-time bad run. So you look at that win list, right? And that's all his wins since 2023. And then you look on the other side, Dominic Reyes went on his revenge tour. Dustin Jacoby is a legit good fighter in the light heavyweight division, and he knocked him the fuck out in the first round. Like, that's a huge win, and, like, that was very redemptive because he had no confidence, right? His confidence had been beaten out of him over years of losing fights, and he got it back in that moment. And you look back, Anthony Smith, he goes out there, gets the win. Again, we'll cross it off their resume, fine. But the difference is Johnny Walker had to run the reverse marathon and do the slappy low kick game to beat Anthony Smith. And then you look, and Anthony Smith is doing the "you're harming my families" and all that stuff. It went to decision, guys. And meanwhile, Dominic Reyes at least had the decency to get him off the television midway through the second round, right? So I feel like you look at that win, and it's slightly better for the Reyes side. Even if we want to cross it out, either we cross it out or we say slightly better on the Reyes side. And then Nikita Krylov, again, Krylov has had some bad moments. He just got his win back, right? He just got his mojo back. You look at Johnny Walker, I feel like he's getting knocked out in sparring with some regularity, if I had to guess. I just don't trust the guy's chin at all. And so I don't think Reyes has a great chin. But if we go back and look, Ulberg, Span, that's the one that's like, ugh! But also Span, big, scary guy in the first round. It's just like you extend him beyond that, it's going to fall apart for him. Then you look at Yuri, champion. Jan Blachowicz, champion. John Jones, people thought he won the fight. It's like, those are all pretty fair losses. And then if we flip it back over to the Johnny Walker side of the equation, losing to Volkan, not a horrible loss, but okay. Magomed Ankalaev, fair enough, right? Champion. Jamal Hill, but he got laid out in such a way, it's like bad, right? And Jamal Hill has not been having much success since, we can all note, right? Obviously, he's had some injuries. Thiago Santos, guys, that fight was a do-nothing, again, reverse marathon. That fight was hard to watch. 5 rounds of absolute nothing with 2 guys that are historically pretty violent. And it's like, that's the downside risk, I feel like, with Johnny Walker is if you just ask, like, who's a better fighter, more technical, more skilled, I do think it's Dominic Reyes, especially in the striking. But both guys are just like one punch and the fight could be over in an instant. So, yeah, man. Ultimately, I'm just going to pick Reyes and not bet on this fight.
That's probably the smartest move.
And
there's no money line play to be had.
No, and I think I think ultimately my point with a little bit of my ramblings and kind of my random lines of fading the narrative is that, like, unless you're willing to do that, I don't think that there's a bet here. Like, save your money.
Yeah, no. Of course, I think this is one of those ones where, like, it's going to be worth it to watch it and be entertained by the outcome.
So
like,
entertaining,
hilarious,
so fun. But
you got to do that a few more times a night.
Yeah, like on a fight this fun, you may not even need to have money on it to make it more fun.
Yeah, it
Maybe
might
that
last
would
90
make it
seconds.
less fun.
All right, beautiful. We're moving on. We've got Cub Ocean Spray.
Listen, I don't know about you, TB, but I can have some fun in 90 seconds.
Yeah, oh, hello. Oh God. Grab your skateboards, grab your ocean sprays. Cub Swanson. We're cruising along to some Fleetwood Mac. Catch us on TikTok. And then it's Nate Landwehr.
Woo, look at his bicep.
Oh yeah, Nate the Train.
Woohoo.
And given his interest in biceps and trains, I can only make one, assumption. But I mean, this dude knows how to fight. It's a fun time whenever you get a Nate the Train fight. And Cub Swanson, talk about a legend, making his last appearance in the UFC octagon. Yeah, I'm just this is going to be a great fight because one of two things is going to happen. Like Nate is either going to walk face first into a litany of different kicks and punches. And let me tell you, like Cub Swanson's boys at his gym are like, they're going off right now. So I feel like there's a good energy. He's been doing a great job as a coach. A lot of his guys really making an impact right now at the UFC level. And I feel like the gym has momentum now going into his send-off fight. And he's fighting a walking punching bag. Like Nate Landwehr is not there to try to avoid your strikes. He's there to throw down and show you his bicep after. So, I mean, listen, this fight is going to look like Cub Swanson minus 300 about 5 minutes into it. It's just if Nate Landwehr is getting finished at that point, because if not, Cub Swanson could start getting into a little bit of trouble. Because Nate Landwehr, man, once the train starts leaving the station, it gets real interesting. But the flip side of that coin is the Morgan Charrier fight where we're like, oh, man, he's turning the table. We've got this now. It's round 3. We're coming and just, woo. We haven't seen Nate really deal with something like that late in a fight where he was starting to really turn it up. So that kind of changes my outlook as to like his general durability. And funny enough, just visually and this point of their career, even a little bit of their fighting style, he's like Darren the Damage Elkins. Like he's just going to walk forward. He's going to eat damage. He's way more athletic, a way better striker. And he pops a bit more power at you. But I feel like Cub Swanson could have a similar type of result as in the Darren Elkins fight, landing a flurry of punches and potentially a head kick to close the show on Nate Landwehr early. So at plus money, Cub Swanson, let's have a fun send-off. It's been a real career. And if not, once again, I mean, I get to look at Nate the Train flexing his bicep in the octagon, celebrating a win. And that right there is probably worth the amount that I bet on Cub Swanson. But I think Cub Swanson, he's the more technical fighter. He's a way better striker. As long as he's not getting overwhelmed, he should win this fight, and he has a chance to do it by decision as well.
Jeez, did you notice that he's been like alternating wins and losses for like 6 years? That's kind of interesting. Uh-oh. Can't go against the color coding. I get autistic like that. Honestly, to your point, right? I just don't think Nate Landwehr has the defense necessary for this fight. I think Cub Swanson has the violence necessary to win it. He doesn't even necessarily need a finish though. And I'm not even sure that there is a finish. Nate Landwehr has been finished, yes, back-to-back fights, but both in round 3. And yeah, he did just finish Billy Q in round 3, which where is Billy Q, right? I think that guy was on his way to retirement. Cub Swanson, round 3 decision. I think that's an interesting call. And fight goes the distance, I honestly think is very possible. So, yeah, give me some Cubby. What do you think, Liam?
Yeah, allow me to make a case for the other side, man. I honestly don't have strong thoughts about who's going to win this fight, right? But kind of like the main event, I do kind of feel strongly that this fight is not going to go the full 15 at a high clip. And I could just give you my reason why. If you look at Cub Swanson, the guy talks about beautiful destruction. That's what he's all about when he fights. He tries to hit people hard. He tries to be Jeremy Stevens. When he knocks people out, they don't effing move. Like, he's trying to really put guys away, man. He's an old school fighter. He's been around forever. He doesn't feel bad about taking somebody's lights out. Dude is just that guy about the fight. And if you look at Nate Landwehr on the other side, I think the legendary quote was knock me out and see what happens. Like this guy, he's about that life. Like he's going to get in your face and fight. If you were looking at the live market, I believe Nate the Train. I don't remember if that was an official play or something I got to live during the card. I'd have to look. But I know that, I was interested in Nate, and I think I had bet him live maybe after one round, and he was plus money. Then after 2 rounds, he was like minus like 275, minus 300 going into round 3 because it's like, Nate's on his ass. Nate's turning up in round 2. It's about to be round 3. Like this is his whole deal. And then he comes out with loosey-goose defense and gets beat by a guy who's like 3-3 in the UFC. And I think really highly of Nate because he pushes a hellacious pace. Until you kill him, he's going to keep fighting. He's going to keep pushing. But it's like skill for skill. I feel like Cub is a better fighter than him. And if he's not, because he's 42 and he's washed and he's over the hill and he's slow and he's old, I think he's going to get finished because Nate doesn't let people off the hook except for David Onama. And that fight was unbelievable. It's kind of miraculous nobody got finished in that fight. They both beat 7 shades of shit out of each other. So when Nate goes the distance, it's like a car crash. When Cub Swanson goes the distance, it ain't too frequent, right? If you look back, he's actually only been to decision 3 times in 10 UFC fights. That's Nate Landwehr I'm talking about. And meanwhile, on the Cub Swanson side, he's been to 11 decisions, right, in 25 UFC fights. So again, the majority of these guys' fights, they're ending inside the distance. I think when you've got guys who are 37 going on 38, 41 going on 42, going on 43, they're much more likely to get knocked out just in general, right? Like an accidental jab where somebody just starts wobbling. It's like that can happen when your chin starts to go. And Fightnomics is a book I reference all the time. It talks about 38 and over, like exponential growth of the ends by KO rate in losses. And I just think either one of these guys could knock each other out. I honestly think either one of them could submit each other. I think Cub in the first round when he's fresh and he's feeling good and he's flowing and doing his shit, like I think he could, hurt Nate and take his back and choke him or do something like that. I also think that if Nate is able to pace this guy and get him tired, he can sub guys and like even guys that are really hard to put away. Gamrot was laying on top of Ludovic Klein a long time and wasn't able to get him to say uncle, right? Nate's able to do that just by making you tired, and fatigue makes cowards of us all, man. When you get old, you get tired. I'll just tell you, I go out there and wrestle with high school kids. I get more tired now than I used to, right? It's just like, that's the way it is. And I ain't old yet. So shout out to a guy who's a true OG. I've been watching Cub Swanson since Jeremy Steven main events way back in, the Hinder days. But I feel like right now, this is going to be a violent fight, and I don't think it's going 15. So as soon as I saw the price on the fight not to go the distance, I was surprised. And I think that's something I'm going to have this week.
I like that a lot. I really do. These are violent uncles. These are not the ones that can't finish each other in the backyard at the barbecue.
They'll have some beers after they take some, shades off each other, dude.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
There's some tough SOBs.
All right, make sure you're doing the right thing, guys. I really appreciate all the love in the chat, just all the views we're getting, all the people joining to see Liam and his breakdowns and have fun with the boys. Like, appreciate all you guys so much. Just do the thing that costs you absolutely $0. Subscribe to the channel, like the show if you haven't already, and we can move on. Let's move forward. We've got Patricio Frete People plus 225 versus Aaron Pico Grams minus 278. I mean, just look at the physique. Do you think John Jones had anything to do with those picograms over there? It could have happened, you know what I mean? But ultimately, in this fight, it's truly a question of where Pitbull is at. If this is prime Pitbull, this line would be an absolute abomination. I just feel like at this stage, Pico's like hit the gas pedal option. I feel like he could just end the fight with a couple big strikes thrown in combination. And at the same time, he's got that wrestling in the back pocket. I know the Lerone Murphy fight, all the other times Aaron Pico's let us down. And I'm not advocating a minus 278. I don't think that there's any reason why I would go ahead and parlay him here, but he's going to be my official pick. I think he's got him covered athletically. He's got a 3-inch height, 3-inch reach advantage, a 2-inch height advantage. He's 9 years younger. The things that he was trying to do to Lerone Murphy, I don't think Pitbull is going to be as athletic to evade the strikes and also counter as effectively. I'm sure he could have had some success if we were getting the prime version of Pitbull, but I feel like UFC was like, all right. We've been having trouble with these Bellator versus UFC matchups. Aaron Pico, here's a Bellator matchup for you, okay? Before we get you back to the UFC level, let's have you face Patricio Pitbull. And I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but the pick here is Aaron Pico. He could get it done by wrestling to a decision, or just as well, he could get a round 1 knockout. I'm very interested in probably playing one of those two ideas, or even a little bit of each, because you're getting Pico knockouts plus 150. So if you get specific with round 1, we're getting pretty solid range there, and then his decisions plus 185. I'd much rather do that than be sitting on like some type of parlay with him. So Guru, well, what do you think about this one?
It's honestly, it's one of the more exciting fights of this card, and that's saying a lot because the card, as we've said a few times here, is fucking stacked. If you're a fan of MMA outside of UFC, this is a fight that's probably like supposed to have been happened a couple times. And interesting how it hadn't happened, but we get these guys clashing here in the UFC, which is just, I don't know, just serendipitous and interesting. But they're both kind of like, I mean, especially Patricio here's, more towards the tail end of his career as opposed to his prime. Aaron Pico coming off a interesting performance versus Lerone Murphy, doing really well, going berserko mode, runs straight into a spinning back elbow, breaks his face, is one of the most brutal, disgusting knockouts I've ever seen. Like that spinning back elbow and the Jiri Prochazka Dom Reyes one, like those are like maybe two of the best knockouts ever. I just don't think that Patricio is going to have too much for him here in terms of dealing with his speed. But finishing Patricio Pitbull is not always an easy thing to do. So I kind of just think, I mean, the fight might go. It really might. But I guess the picograms, all his power, right? Is that your point, TP? He's got all the power.
Yes, exactly. You got it.
Yeah, but it's like beating Henry Corrales, Pedro Cavallo, who like Aldi Edwards, like who? Nah, man. I actually don't. I like it. I think the fight goes. He survived Danny Ige and Yair Rodriguez. He's actually the only one that's shown something. Give me fight goes. Give me fight goes.
But you're taking Pico as your
pick.
pick.
Pico probably gets it done. Sure.
Okay. All right. So Liam, what do you think in this fight?
I have had an Aaron Pico t-shirt since I was in high school. Big fan of the guy's wrestling. And when you look at, his MMA skills, we always talk about the component martial arts, right? Like you've got wrestling, you've got boxing, you've got Muay Thai, you got all these different styles. And I would say that Aaron Pico's wrestling and boxing are fucking beautiful, right? But the problem with Pico's game is that he does not know how to temper his aggression. And so when you watch the same problems that plagued him very early in his career were the exact same problems that were his undoing against Lerone Murphy. And maybe that was, hey, when you're in a high pressure situation and you're in your UFC debut, you revert back to what you know best, and what he knows best is offense. And I'll just tell you guys also, from like a mindset standpoint, you kind of coach wrestlers that it's always offense, because offense wins, right? And putting people on their heels is a lot easier than being really sound in every position, right? If you set the tone, that's different than you accepting what somebody gives you. And when you look at this matchup on paper, if you listen to Pitbull describe it, he's very objective about what Pico brings to the table. He's like, this guy hits with thunderous power, and this guy is a very good wrestler, but this guy can't take a great punch. And I can land a great punch. And, I'm a good counter fighter. And this guy's extremely aggressive. And unless he's changed his style completely, this is what Pitbull said, he doesn't defend very well. So I think he's going to be there to be hit by me. And I tend to agree with him, right? And like, again, you mentioned if this was a younger Pitbull, then we'd be having a different conversation. And of course we would be. With this older version of Pitbull, I still think that it's a dogger pass situation. Now, granted, at plus 280 earlier in the week, I like the number a lot more than where we're at now, plus 225. The closer we get to like 60% Aaron Pico, the closer I feel, just because if you can't trust somebody's chin, it's very hard to trust them in general. Here's the other thing. We talked about, hey, Pico's probably going to bail himself out with the wrestling. I do think Pico's wrestling is sensational. But do I think it's impossible that he shoots himself into a guillotine against one of the best guillotine guys going? Like, you look back at the guy's record, there's a reason that the guy who's a knockout guy who can knock out 155ers has all these submissions on his resume. He's got a lights-out guillotine choke. He knows when to sit for it, when not to. He's a little bit older. I think he might just get run over based on the fact that Pico is a young, hungry, probably pharmaceutically enhanced individual who is going to push forward and really try and apply a ton of pressure. And that, again, is where my concern comes in with like a fight goes, because Aaron Pico, I know he's talking about, he's the Terrence McKinney of the week. Like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be much more calculated. Maybe he actually can do that, right? But he's not done it yet, right? Like, biggest opportunity of your career. You're getting free takedowns. Maybe you take a second to disengage, take a breath, be on the outside. He can't really do that. He doesn't do that. He gets in your face and says, it's you or me. I'm coming back with the shield or on it. And if you do that with a guy like Pitbull, you're going to give him a chance. That's just the way I see it. So, I love and respect Aaron Pico. I'm rooting for him to win this fight. I think, like, at this stage in his career, at his, age and everything else, like, I'd love for things to go well for him right now. But coming off a devastating, like, potentially career-altering knockout, and it's not the first one of your career, I'm not lining up to go, top ticket him on all my parlays like some people do. And, hey, if he runs over him, like, you're going to look like a genius, right? But that's why I almost lean more towards the fight not to go and Pitbull as being the sides here, because I'm like, Pico, unless he changes everything, is going to force the issue over and over and over again. And either Pitbull's going to have the answer or he's not. And if he doesn't, he might just get run over. So that's kind of the way I see it, man.
Yeah, no, I like it. And yeah, Pico's going to be the pick here, but I can't emphasize enough. Please don't just like line up a bunch of parlays with him. Please don't do it. It's not recommended. All right. The Trailblazer, Kevin Holland, -110 versus Randy Rude Boy Brown, -110.
With a rude boy, want to give it up. Oh, with a rude boy, want to give it up. Randy Brown coming off the most ridiculous main event of opportunity of a lifetime. Like,
of a lifetime.
Why? Like, no, Randy Brown, you never belonged in a main event. You shouldn't have been there. And guess what? That's how you looked.
Oh, no.
And he's fighting Kevin Holland, a guy that loves to game, loves to play around, loves to bail out his opponents that beat him out of Mexican jail. So,
wow.
Shout out Kevin Holland. But I think this is actually a rare opportunity and a rare position where Kevin Holland recognizes that he actually needs a win, right? He's gone on multiple, count them, multiple, 1, 2, 3, 4 separate. This is now his 4th separate 2-fight losing streak in the UFC. He has never been on a 3-fight. Actually, no, I miscounted one. There's a 5th one. There's a 5th one. He's had 5 2-fight losing streaks in his career. He's never lost 3 in a row. He's not losing a 3rd one here. He gets his shit together after 2. And Randy Brown's the type of guy that's not going to be the one to beat him. You want to know why? Because when you're handicapping a Kevin Holland fight, you need to ask yourself these 2 questions. Number 1, is the fight at middleweight or welterweight? Right? This fight is at welterweight.
Good.
Check number 1. That's a good thing. Number 2, does your opponent wrestle? Randy Brown does not wrestle. That's another one in the Kevin Holland direction. Check 2. And then you get a little sprinkle on top. You check the line. Did you have an opportunity to get Kevin Holland as an underdog? Oh, you did you? Okay. Check 3. That's a full send on Mr. Kevin Holland. Those are the 3 things you need to know when you want to bet him. The only of course, Daniel Rodriguez. Oh, Greg, that's at 170. I would say, you know what? Daniel Rodriguez is huge. And he was playing with his food, right? He's on a 2-fight winning streak. He think he can just come in there and stun. He can't. So I think in this fight, he's going to have a really good chance to beat up Randy Brown, and whether get a finish or style on it to decision, it doesn't really matter. But Randy Brown finished in his last fight. Give me Kevin Holland here. Durability, major advantage. Just statistically advantage. So,
Liam, what are you thinking on this one?
I must confess, fellas, I used to feel like I had Kevin Holland fights down to a science. I'm up like 20 units on Kevin Holland fights lifetime. But prior to that Daniel Rodriguez fight, I was up like 22.5 units, and I gave some back there. I was sure he was going to finish D-Rod. I was sure he was going to go out there and show levels in that fight. And I did think that was a bad loss and kind of a bad look for Kevin. But I will also acknowledge I think that he's a little bit more durable than Randy, and I think that could be a separator in what's otherwise a very close fight. Now, the question is, man, is the durability going just enough on the Holland side that Randy's catching him at the right time? Shout out to our guy, Dan Levy, talks about the fade Holland World Tour. And it's because Kevin Holland, is starting to show some signs of regression and maybe just not caring as much. I think Randy cares more, generally speaking. But to you guys' point, I do think Kevin understands this is a important fight for him to win. And I think that when you look at these two guys, again, this is a stats fight. I think you go with Kevin Holland here. You look at the knockdown ratio, 7-2 for Kevin Holland, 6-6 for Randy Brown. He's as likely to get knocked down as he is to knock somebody down. And it's Kevin Holland, he can knock people down. He can submit people from the front headlock, including good guys. And it's I don't see Randy Brown process grappling Kevin Holland at a high percentage. You look back and Randy doesn't really offensively wrestle many guys. And when he does, he mostly ends up cage pushing. And if he's able to take somebody's back, he can win. Maybe he can pop out on Kevin's back, but I think maybe Kevin can pop out on his back. And I also think Kevin can hurt him on the feet. So I think it's a close fight. I probably won't bet it at the current odds because I, think it's a close fight and I don't have the strongest feel. But if you press me for who I think wins, especially Kevin at his best, I think Kevin beats this guy. So I'm going to pick Kevin, but very reluctantly because last time I thought he was going to clown D-Rod and he made me look like an asshole.
But you know what? I feel like, and don't take this the wrong way, Liam, because I'm the asshole that played him as well. I think you're an asshole when you're playing somebody like Kevin Holland at -600. It doesn't make any sense. Right? He's not a 90% type of guy, 87% guy. He's just not that guy. You don't put him in that spot against a legit, who finishes D-Rod? Ian Gary? Come on.
Neil Magny?
Right, but he took him to the Magniverse and choked him out. He had a different type of game plan.
Magny ITD plus 680 generational.
That's crazy. So, I love Kevin Holland in this spot. So, let's go, Kevin.
Yeah, it's Loudmouth versus the Rude Boy, and we're going.
Let your rude boy, why don't you give it up? All right, come on, let's go.
Damn, he didn't even want to let me do a breakdown for this fight.
No,
he thinks we were good. 3 for 3. You already knew what I was going to say.
I didn't even realize you didn't talk.
No, you cut me off literally 2 seconds.
Wait a rude boy, why don't you give it up?
You literally, from the second you did that, the wheels were in Guru's hands, and he, at this point, just imagines I did a 5 to 8 minute breakdown, and he doesn't want to hear anything that I have to say.
He's already been talking.
The good news,
seconds and you haven't.
The good news, Kevin Holland, 2 thumbs up, make it 3 out of 3. Let's save the people some time and keep it moving.
I think, you know what it was? I actually think for once, I gave a really good, concise, deep, technical breakdown. I felt good about that one, and I think we can kind of leave it there. I got in there nice and deep, black.
I'll take it, man.
I bet you will. And you're going to take it on Saturday, too.
Jesus. All right. We've got the gamer, Mateusz Gamrot, versus El Gringo, Esteban Ribovic. Plus 160 on the Gringo side. Minus 192 for the gamer. This fight is interesting. This is a tough one. The things that I have to say about Gamrot is, like, I'm going to give him a pass for the last fight. I know he's been getting knocked down, like, basically every single matchup. Can you blame a guy? Like, he just loves get knocked down and you get up again and I'm going to go take you down. It's just over and over. Like, I know he gets in trouble. I know that, you know, it can look sketchy at times, but we're talking about, you know, 4 losses at the UFC, 2 of them by split. I know he's got a couple wins by split, but the only time that he's really even been gotten out of there, you know, he's flying in on very short notice down to Rio and facing Charles Oliveira to save the day for the UFC. Forgive the guy for deciding, you know, and not being able to deal with the Charles Oliveira grappling. And hats off to him for even trying to go to the wrestling approach in that matchup. You know, a lot of guys just avoid it for a reason, and he found out that reason. The only thing he's got to worry about for Ribovic in the grappling here is the Kimura reversal. Like, that's Ribovic's go-to. He'll let you get the takedown. He goes to rip a Kimura, and sometimes he uses it to get on top. Sometimes he uses it to get up. But it's a pretty consistent maneuver on his end. And I just don't think that that's going to be as consistent as you'd like it to be when Gamrot's just going to keep pushing the pace. The things that gets me a little bit worried, the age of Gamrot and the fact that Ribovic has been training with a good camp more recently. It's not like when he made his UFC debut. And he does have great cardio. And that's where Gamrot, it's like, can I trust your cardio the same way that I used to? So I'm really scared here. What I wouldn't recommend is a money line on either side before the fight starts, but there's a couple things I could tell you to do. Mateusz Gamrot to win by decision, because I can tell you he's not getting Ribovic out of there. He's not subbing him, and he's not knocking him out. So if he's going to win, it's by decision. So that's the one prop I would play on the Gamrot side. And it's probably, what is it, like super close to even? I'm loading it up right now. I apologize. I had the wrong page open. But Ribovic, for him, I'd be looking at a knockout somewhere, and I don't think it's fast. I think it's somewhere down the stretch. I think, like, if you want to be on the Ribovic side, you would either live bet him or you'd be taking him to knockout in round 2 or 3. Otherwise, I see Gamrot winning a decision pretty consistently.
He's knocked out one guy in his 3 UFC wins, and it was Terrence McKinney. It was 4 UFC wins, and it's Terrence McKinney via 37-second head kick. It's just not. He's a decision guy. I just don't see it like that. I mean, yeah, he's exciting, and he's got a fun striking style, and he's got a rubber chin himself, but I don't necessarily. I mean, and Gamrot gets rocked all the time, but I still not sure that he's going to be the one to put him away.
All right, good. So it's Gamrot by decision then, pretty clearly.
Yeah. I don't think, I mean, Esteban is fun and springy, and I get kind of nervous sometimes with Gamrot and the fact that, like, will he do damage? Right? But he should be able to get it done here, right? He should be able to scramble here. Just because you couldn't beat Charles Oliveira on short notice doesn't mean you're washed or anything like that, right? So, yeah. Gamrot seems to just lose to anybody that he either can't out-scramble. I'm lumping in Arman Sarukian in there because he should have lost that fight. And, you know, Dan Hooker, which was a close fight where Dan Hooker is just like the takedown defense and get up game was just fucking amazing. Which is where I think and that
justice
was
for Dan Hooker plus 340.
I love that. That was amazing. Which, to your point, TB, if Esteban only tries to use the Kimura to get up, I think he's dumb, because Gamrot's whole problem is that, like, his top control is just not great. You know, his takedowns, he goes for him at volume. You love to see it, but he has to go for him at volume because his control is not fantastic. So if Esteban can just be kind of noodly and scrambly and just overall difficult, make him work, he could make it look more interesting. But I'm just not sure. Just not sure he will. So yeah, I guess Gamrot by decision, but that's like there's no real juice on that. So,
No meat
yeah,
on the
what do you
bone.
think?
Yeah, I've been a guy that really appreciates and admires Gamrot's style and the single legs and the way he wrestles and all that stuff. The way he's able to do it in terms of cardio is super impressive. The guy has a good grappling game overall. The way he out wrestled and out grappled RDA, I did think was impressive, though RDA is old. I bet RDA there for a pretty big amount at like plus 350. And he almost did it, right? Like he landed that big knee. He hurt him bad. He had him rocked and he just couldn't seal the deal. He was a little too old. He didn't have the cardio to sustain. And yeah, he just got outpaced and out hustled. And Gamrot, they didn't put that gamer in his nickname title for no reason, right? Like he is a gamer. He will go to hell and back. If you don't put him away, he's going to keep fighting. But I think, I tweeted out a while back, Esteban Ribovic is one highlight reel knockout away from UFC stardom. And I kind of feel that way, right? Going to decision with Zell Huber, I think he changed Zell Huber's life forever. I think Zell Huber's looked like a shell of himself in subsequent performances. Can't take the same punch anymore. I think Ribovic had a lot to do with that. That fight could have been stopped in the third round, in my view. But because it was a great fight and it was back and forth and it had already been on for 12 and a half minutes. They're like, just let him go. They're putting on a great one. And yeah, how'd that turn out for Daniel Zellhuber? Not great. Absorbing 150 significant strikes, not good for one's health. And you look at Gamrot, like the guy gets knocked down a lot, and eventually that bill comes due. I actually wrote up in my preview, I picked Oliveira to win, but I thought that he was going to knock him out. When you're a guy that prides yourself on your wrestling and your grappling, you talked about like, hey, he's not afraid to go out there and push that part of his game. True. But when somebody just beats you where you're supposed to be the best, it's tough. I don't know what that does to your mental. I don't know what that does to your confidence, right? Meanwhile, on the other side, Ribovic, you talked about, hey, this guy's going to that Kimura trap. Listen, if we're getting taken down super easy and going to Kimura traps here, shit's going sideways, in my opinion. But Brenner has taken down most of his UFC opponents, and he's shown very good wrestling, in my opinion, overall, right? Going back and forth, scrambling with Mikdebek Oralbai, really difficult guy to put him away. Only guy to do it was Joel Alvarez at the UFC level, and that dude is massive, now moved up a weight class. Like, he's a big welterweight. He was huge at 155. Brenner's like, who the hell is this guy? But you look at, he goes out there, he shuts down 9 takedown attempts from Brenner. Oralbai got taken down. This guy didn't get taken down, and it was because he understood the assignment. Like, if I don't let this guy take me down, I'm going to win this fight. And that's what he did. He kept it upright, used his skills, used his volume and his ability. I think that this guy is at a major deficit in the grappling, but I think that his wrestling has made some big strides. You guys talked about it. He moved to a real gym. He's now getting training partners that are serious wrestlers trying to get in on his hips, take him down with more frequency. Kamaru Usman, pretty good wrestler in his own right, So I think that when you look at those kind of visuals, that does seem like, man, maybe this guy has made the requisite improvements. I thought Ludovic Klein's takedown defense looked way improved on the tape coming into that fight with Gamrot, and he got ran for his paper. But the one thing I will also point to is Klein is a little bit more a guy who gets down on himself. Whereas I feel like Ribovic, he showed in that Loic Radzhabov fight, out wrestle me all you want. If I can get up, I will get up, and I'll start throwing again. And that's exactly what he did. And against Radzhabov, he was plus 26 on the significant strike count. He got the only knockdown of the fight. But Radzhabov got 11 of 21 takedown attempts. Most guys exhaust themselves before 21 attempts. Again, Gamrot maybe could do it. But if this kid is smart and if his coaches are smart, what they're going to borrow from Dan Hooker is attempting guillotines to make this guy let go of you. Because Gamrot will let go if you go for the guillotine. And it was exactly what Dan Hooker kept using to keep him honest, to threaten him, to not make it so, hey, you just shoot a takedown and I give up. It's like, no, I'm going to put you in a threat that makes you react, that makes you respond right away. And he kept doing it, and it's why he kept getting back up to his feet. I bet Dan Hooker because I thought he could work back up to his feet when he got taken down. And if I was to get involved with this fight, it would be on the Ribovic side. But I would want more plus money. I'm kind of hoping that the Gamrot line will run. We get over 2-1 here because it is a speculative one. But based on what I've seen, denying 9 takedowns in a row from Ellis Brenner. I think Gamrot's on a higher level, but that shows me this is not the same guy who got taken down 11 times by Loic Radzhabov. He's young, he's hungry, he fights hard, he's hard to kill. I think those are all positive attributes, and I think if somebody wins this fight via knockout, it's much more likely to be Rivovic.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's certainly possible down the stretch. That was why I kind of rated it as like a long shot type of idea. But, I truly just envision Gamrot doing his thing here. But, I've been wrong before. I've been wrong plenty. We'll see how we do. All right, we're moving on. We've got the Tatiana Anaconda Suarez. She learned it from her boy, Patchy Mix. Be careful. She added that to her arsenal, apparently, and the TB nickname aspect, too. Then we got Lupita Godinez. Oh my God, Godinez. Plus 124. Minus 148 on the Tatiana side. I just made Guru throw up in his mouth a little bit with that. Yeah, that wasn't good. I could see it. Yeah. It's all right. We're doing our best. Tatiana, I don't know if she's been doing her best, but this would be the matchup that she wants. Oh, wow. I mean, I'm sorry I've been watching it in the background, but Josh Hart with just an absolutely gigantic 3. That was hot. But yeah, Lupe Godinez here. Plus 124 was tempting, right? I was like, Guru texted me, who are the people we need to be looking at? Is Lupe potentially an option? I was just like, there's one thing that I don't trust her to do is smart a fight game plan. And, what you don't want to allow to happen in this fight with Suarez is it to get in a close exchange and the clinch, and then all of a sudden you're in a takedown attempt, and then, but I turned her out in the clinch, and then now I'm going to try to trip her. And like, I just see Lupe doing something stupid here. Like if she was just like, listen, I'm going to kickbox, I'm going to stay at range, I'm going to throw a 1-2 and I'm going to move. I'm going to throw a leg kick and I'm going to move. I'm going to throw, an overhand and I'm going to move. That would be the Lupe plus money, this is what dreams are made of opportunity. But I just end up feeling like we find ourselves in the clinch. We find ourselves in the wrestling exchanges. We find ourselves in these areas where Tatiana is just going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and Lupe is probably going to be left feeling like, damn, I really wish that they made a UFC atomweight division. Because this is what I said about Tabitha Ricci last week as well, is like, she's got a lot of good traits. I just feel like she would be even better, fighting people a little bit more her size. And that's where Suarez is going to have the advantage. She's a way bigger fighter, way more physical. And if she's not just an absolute shell of herself, and I think the Lemos fight proved that she can at least get it done. And even if it's a little bit difficult, I think she's going to be able to get it done here. The money line is getting quite tantalizing. If it keeps coming in and I get minus 125 or better, I might just have to touch it. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I'm going to pick Suarez here, and it's going to be by decision. She's not subbing her. She's not knocking her out.
Yeah, I mean, if I could get minus 140, minus 130, I would certainly touch some Suarez, because I think the line is a little, I don't even necessarily get it. Lupe is too willing to engage in those grappling exchanges. She's shown it time and time again. She's shown that she can be controlled on the ground or against the cage. I mean, she made Tabitha Ricci look good. Like, what a woof. Big woof. So, in that regard, she's shown when somebody's more athletic or possibly stronger than her, she doesn't handle that well. Which is, by the way, why I believe I took Julia Pilastri over her, and she turned it on round 3. That fight was crazy, right? She almost knocked her out. She was bleeding, tired. So I don't think Lupe's got a great chance here, right? I think it's just some name value here from beating Jessica Andrade. And I think everybody's still salty about Suarez for not beating Zhang Weili. I know I am. So, but I still think she gets it done here. So Tatiana by decision, I think makes a lot of sense. Probably not going to be the first person to finish Lupe. Liam, please bring it home.
Yeah, tough one for me because I have sung the praises of Patchy Mix and Tatiana Suarez as one of MMA's great power couples. And I truly believe that Patchy Mix was once a great fighter. And unfortunately, every great fighter has their day. And I think that his great days were outside the UFC. And I know people will always throw it back in somebody's face if they're a guy that didn't do it in the UFC. but timing is everything, right? Ben Askren looked like shit when he got to the UFC, and I can just tell you guys, go watch him fight Jay Heyron, and then go watch him fight, his modern era UFC fights, and the guy looks completely different because a lifetime of wrestling, I will tell you, is not easy on the body, and you're a different person after a certain point in time. Ben Askren needed a hip replacement, right? And I can just tell you, if you took Tatiana Suarez out of the cage against Carla Esparza and you put her in there with Amanda Lemos, she would run that girl for her paper in such a way that it's hard to describe. And it's because that Tatiana Suarez was the most smothering wrestling threat that the UFC had probably ever seen in the women's side of the game. Carla Esparza, guys, was a good wrestler, known for her wrestling. That's her calling card. She got audited in that fight. And when you look at Zhang Wei Li, she was also able to audit Carla Esparza, but the version of Carla that was also past her prime and closer to retirement. At the peak of her powers, Carla Esparza got absolutely slaughtered by Tatiana Suarez. And I just don't think we're seeing the same fighter anymore. And I could point to a couple different fights as signs for me that this is not the same Tatiana. And I say this as, again, somebody who's a fan of her work, somebody that's rooting for her to succeed. I picked her to beat Zhang Wei Li, despite some of the things I had seen as regression, because I was like, at the end of the day, I got to trust the pedigree. I got to trust the tape. And the tape lied because she used to have the ability to push and be violent and do it for a long time. And she looked like a spent force after 5 minutes with Zhang Wei Li. And maybe that's Zhang Wei Li's, just got such an aura and such power, but that wasn't the case with Joanna Jędrzejczyk when they were both in their prime. So it's just like, I don't know about all that, right? And it's like, I look at this fight and I say, Luque Godinez is not an easy click by any means, especially not at the price. I would have hoped for a bigger price, especially with Tatiana's reputation. But I think that there is probably some sharp money on the Godinez side that has pushed this down because I would have to imagine that most casual fans are more familiar with Tatiana Suarez as a championship level commodity type fighter, like a high level competitor. And Luque has kind of been a bed shitter in some of her big step ups, but you have to remember she had turned around on 2 weeks notice and then had a tough fight. Hey, shout out to Dan Tom, the absolute OG. But again, it's like, I just look at these two women and I say, who's more likely to be getting better and showing a better product in this fight? And I would think that's Luque. Right? She's coming off of a couple wins. She's got some momentum. That Lemos fight, dude, was a literal coin flip where if a judge wanted to say damage over control, Lemos could win that type of fight, right? And again, it was like Suarez definitely got the control, but it was a lot of control without a lot of doing damage, without a lot of scoring. And Luque is a pretty physically strong girl. She's gotten out-wrestled twice in her UFC career, and it was Verna Jandiroba, whose grappling is sensational. She's very sticky in those positions. And then Cynthia Calvillo, who took her down and controlled her for like a minute. And that was that was all the wrestling that happened there, and she won the fight anyway. So it's like, I just look at this fight and I say, who's the better fighter, like prime for prime, peak for peak? It's like, no question, Tatiana Suarez is just 10 times better. But Tatiana's 35. And she has looked a little bit regressed in recent performances. And for me, Luque looks like she's kind of coming into her own a little bit more on the other side. And she's always been a underperformer, right? Like, it's like Luque looks like she's got the goods. She can punch. She's not easy to out-grapple. That Verna fight just looked like a brain fart where, like, if she wanted to get on top, it looked like she could have. If she didn't sit back for a leg, it's like, what are you thinking? Cyril Gane against Francis Ngannou stuff. But Cyril Gane still came back and ended up fighting for the title. It's like you can make a boneheaded decision. You can cost yourself fights and still come back and win fights at a later time. And I just feel like in this spot, I can't trust what I've seen from Suarez lately because I just don't feel like it's the same fighter. So I'm not going to play it unless the line goes back up. But for me, it's a loop or pass situation right now. And I wish I wasn't saying it, but it's just the way I feel. And I feel like if Pachi's declining and Tatiana's declining, maybe there's some symbiosis there, right? Like maybe they both hit a peak at a different time in their life and now they're maybe ready to focus on family or something else. And there's nothing wrong with that. We wish them well. But if I'm capping a fight, I'm looking for who do I think is all in right now and just feels more like Luque Godinez for me.
I certainly understand that. And that I can dig it. We'll move on to the next fight here. But before we do, as TB's dealing with some technical difficulties. Guys, please, I saw some new people in the chat. Like, subscribe. Really, we enjoy the like, but give us a subscribe. Come back again. We do this every Thursday, every single one. So come on back. And TB is here. Let's let him back in.
I'm back. I got no control over anything else in the studio, so best of luck on your end if you can make it happen. But if not, we're almost there, right? What else we got? I have no idea. My computer's not working.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. So we don't have stats or anything else.
Well, isn't it in there in the studio? Can you see it?
No, it's gone.
We got
wow.
Maderos Padilla up next. I can tell you that.
Beautiful. All right. Well, something's going on with my internet, so I'm gonna let's start this breakdown of the fight. This is another one where me and the Guru want to fight each other.
Jeez,
I want Maderos versus Padilla. Oh man, this is gonna be a great one. So listen, I'm on Taco here. He has a solid reach advantage. I think he's the way more violent fighter who has a way more chaotic game plan, and I trust him to also rack up control time at some point in the fight. So he might not always be successful, like shooting takedowns the entire time, but I think his calf kicks are just as good as Maderos. I like that he's also a good switch stance fighter. I like that he's going to be the one that gets the cage control if anyone does, and I love his back kicks. And the fact that Maderos, anytime you go to take him down, he just gives up his back, and you could take his back in the scramble. And I think Padilla, if there's anyone that's live to finish the fight, it's not Maderos, it's Padilla, and it's not by knockout. My little play would be submission. However, it's most likely a Padilla. It's most likely a super close decision, but I'm going Padilla. So screw you if you think otherwise. I'm going to go check my internet. I'll be back.
If we could have this working, we would see the stats for this fight and the Nate Lightshaw stats.
Talk about the level of competition also, please.
All right, Pops. Thank you. I honestly feel that when you do look at this fight, they both have pretty suspect levels of competition. I mean, beating Jan Top, Justin James, Rong Zhu, his best wins are the worst Bonfim brother and a split decision with Jai Herbert. It's not great. And yes, landing Quinones, Austin Hubbard, and short notice Mark Chonsky is not exactly the most impressive run either. But he is facing a different, when you're beating Austin Hubbard, right? He's not a fantastic wrestler, but that's a guy that's going to spam wrestle, right? He's going to chain wrestle, and he'll wrap you up like an anaconda if you're not careful. I just don't see Chris Padilla, and I love Chris Padilla because I made a lot of money betting Chris Padilla as an underdog. I just don't know that he's going to land at volume here enough to outland Maderos. And if we had the stats up, you would see that Maderos lands more frequently and more accurately than Chris Padilla does. The other part is I would love to see Chris Padilla wrestle, right? If he was going to wrestle consistently, frequently, it could make it a little bit more interesting to me. But I don't think that he wrestles quite often. So in what I believe to be is a very close fight that I think is going to go the distance, close fight, going the distance, probably near a coin flip, I'm going to take the dog. And honestly, the line has been coming closer and closer to that coin flip. So I got plus 144 on Maderos. I'm going to take a shot there. Obviously, again, Taco's going to want to make it dirty. Maderos want to keep it clean. I think the large cage is going to be helpful for Maderos in that regard, and I think he can get it done. So what do you think, Liam, as TB's figuring out his life?
I think that this was probably one of my favorite fights to try and break down and tape on the prelims. I thought it was a fascinating fight. The dynamic is so interesting, right? You've got a guy who's a favorite in every UFC fight in Marco Maderos, comes in after winning 3 fights in a row. He's an underdog for the first time against Taco Padilla. Taco Padilla being a dog in his first 4 UFC fights. We can caveat that a little bit and say minus 110 against Jai Herbert, but this guy was a dog or pick him in all 4 of his UFC fights. Now he's favored to win against the guy who was favored to win all of his other fights. So fascinating in that regard, right? And before I taped this fight, I was pretty sure I was going to have to bet Maderos here. I'm a fan of Padilla. I think he's a good fighter, but I was just like, yo, Maderos is going to go out there and kick the leg. We saw Rong Zhu, have some success with that technique. I do think that's something that you can get ahead on the strike count of a guy like Padilla if you just go to his legs, and that's something that Maderos does very well. So you're going to have to be very close. Like this is probably going to be a super close and competitive fight in the early going, especially because Maderos likes to use his movement. I think he's much, both these guys are kind of willing to take the back foot. And I don't know exactly how that's going to operate here. But the difference is I think Maderos won't accept just being on the back foot all the time. He will go into those kind of like step off the line and then throw a leg kick exchanges. He likes those, and then he throws from there. But you go back and watch his fights, he gets into a lot of competitive boxing exchanges when he does that. And he's got a good chin. He's a young kid, so he's able to take these shots and, keep fighting and doing everything. But he's kind of fighting a really low level of competition, I would say, in the UFC. If you look back, Landon Quinones, I'm not sure that he has a win in the promotion. If he does, he has one win in the promotion. Austin Hubbard, the guy has, really struggled at the UFC level. He's 4-8. So, not winning a lot of his fights. And Chowinski, I believe, was brought in on short notice. I thought he would have some success there. He did have some success there, guys. If you go back and watch that fight, Mark Chowinski had a dominant position in every round. He took the back in round 1, he took the back in round 2, and he took mount in round 3. It's like bad, not good, right? Maderos, the fact he won the fight shows he did the better work on the feet against the guy who's like a straight up primary grappler. But what is concerning to me about that fight? This guy's plan is to chop your leg out. That's what he goes out there to do. And he went out there and chopped that guy's leg out. And he got mounted in the 3rd round anyway. It's like you're getting mounted by a guy on one leg. You're not putting him away. You're giving him opportunities to stick around. I can tell you this about Chris Padilla. If he gets you hurt, he is not letting you stick around. He is turning up the pressure until you go home, period. He is a guy that plays for keeps. With the shield or on it, he's willing to go down swinging, right? But here's the other thing. He's willing to accept crazy amounts of damage. Jai Herbert slashes an elbow through his eye, guys, that would have stopped a lot of fights. This guy is literally like got a hole in his face. And much like RoboCop, right, when he had the hole in his face against Chitty, he's like, hey, fight starts now. He just keeps back swinging. While he's bleeding all over his face out of one side of his eye in a fight he's up 2 rounds against Jai Herbert, he stays in the pocket, throws back a counter elbow, and rocks Jai Herbert. That's who this guy is. So when I look at these two guys, I really respect Maderos. I believe he actually came back and got on my ass because I had said, Maderos is going to lose soon, and I will be there for it. When he fought Austin Hubbard, because, guys, Austin Hubbard blew that fight. Let's not make two ways about that. Hubbard wins round 2 cleanly and easily, takes his back, holds his back for about 4 minutes, dominates the round, comes out in round 3, easy takedown, on top, passes the guard to top half, and then just lets the guy out from bottom, gets reversed to the bottom position, gets a big cut on his face from an elbow, and blows it. And it's just like, Austin Hubbard blew that fight. His coach has probably had an aneurysm. It's just like that. As a coach myself, the pain I would feel watching my athlete just make bad decision after bad decision. He didn't need to advance. He didn't need to do anything. He needed to park it, and he won the fight. And he didn't park it, and he lost position and lost the fight. Brutal. Padilla is a winner, as I see it, right? The guy's got some losses on his regional record, but what has he been doing at the UFC level? Finding different ways to win. Popped on Yontop's back, choked him, right? Knew that was the path of least resistance, took it, didn't let him hang around. Goes out there against Rong Zhu. Rong Zhu is a handful. Rong Zhu beat the shit out of Cody Steele. Beat his ass. You look at that fight with Taco Padilla, he was applying pressure, he was coming forward. But it's not one strike that won him that fight. He got him with the elbow, he cut him, he let him know. That was the defining strike of the fight. Go back and watch the exchanges before that. He's landing these up the middle. He's finding his timing with the shots up the middle. He's landing that right hand with some power. And that was what's facilitating that opportunity to land the big shot. The other thing is, Rong Zhu is having his shots where he's going and touching the leg and touching the leg and touching the leg, and he's landing some good ones. But when Padilla throws his back, it's with such a commitment and furiosity. Every strike that he throws, he's trying to take a piece off you. He's trying to take your shin off. He's trying to take a piece of your face. This guy plays for keeps. And I think this is Maderos' hardest fight in the UFC. And I believe that is why Padilla is favored. Do I think it's a good bet? No. I just think it's baked into the line. I think that Padilla is rightly favored because I believe he has more paths to victory. I think he can wrestle in this fight and have success. I think he can cage push in this fight and have success. And I think he can knock this guy out by landing a big shot, because I think he could knock almost anybody out because he's just that guy. Knock him out, cut stoppage, that kind of thing. Jai Herbert is a tough bastard and a guy who's fought some good fighters, and that was a hard fight. He had to push him into the fence. He had to make it ugly and gritty. He couldn't finish him like he finished the other guys. But this guy can finish. He can win decisions. He can fight guys that, in my opinion, are a slight tier above. Like Jai Herbert is fucking dropping Ilia Topuria. That's not one of the guys that Maderos has been fighting. So I just feel like right now, Padilla's proven a little more. He's got a little bit more experience to fall back on. I think this is the learning lesson for Maderos that I predicted in the past. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to say hats off to the guy, because he came back to that tweet and he was like, I use this for motivation. No hate, respect. I use this for motivation. I was like, God bless, man. Guy's got the right attitude. He's not coming back and being like, bro, look at your picks, bro. He's like, dude, like, if you think that I'm going to lose, like that pushes me to go train harder. I'm going to go. I'm like, respect. That's a warrior mindset. So that's all I got to say about this one, man. I respect both guys. I think Padilla gets the job done because I think right now he's a little more developed, but I don't think Maderos is a punk at all. Fights hard. I just think he's a little bit more rough around the edges right now.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Chris Padilla could certainly be the more physical and violent guy in this spot. So
Awesome.
I think we're moving on to the next spot. Is that correct, TB?
Yes, sir. I think I might have also finally got it in her now. I'm going to work on that part. Don't worry. But what is our next fight here as you move?
Your own fight. You should know.
Oh, my God. It's me. Oh, my God. There I am. That's why my internet stopped working. They knew I had somewhere to be. I got to go start cutting weight. I haven't thought about that all camp. I'm currently sitting at like 205. There's no way we're making 185. So God bless Vicente Luque if he's actually trying. I just made it through the Miami airport. I've been eating barbecue and tacos all day long to get prepared for this fight against Vicente Luque.
Jeez.
But no matter what, I'm going to come out there. I'm going to throw some left hands. I'm probably going to knock out Vicente Luque. So the safest parlay piece of the card is Kelvin Gastelum, a.k.a. TB Scouting MMA, a.k.a. I got to go get that paper.
I don't know. I love the fact that you could possibly get this fight to go the distance at near plus money. Kelvin Gastelum hasn't won by finish since, yes, beating Michael Bisping in China on short notice after Bisping had just taken a beating from GSP not 3 weeks prior. He has not finished anybody. He's not finishing Vicente Luque. For whatever reason, Joel Alvarez didn't finish Vicente Luque. He wanted to quit in that second round, but he didn't show him the door, and maybe he was paid to take a dive or whatever the fuck to carry Luque, because seriously, like another one of those fights where it was like minus 600 to not go the distance and it goes. So be careful. I honestly think it's Kelvin Gastelum finally gets back on the win column again. He's somehow going to be winning 3 of his last 4. And I think he wins by decision. So give me fight goes, give me Kelvin by decision. And then let's eat some tacos.
Let's fucking get some tacos, baby. Yeah, pick's not wide enough. That is honestly true. Could probably be a little bit wider. But Liam, what do you think on this fight?
Yeah, 5 years ago, Vicente Luque was one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. Still got a ton of respect for the guy, but just don't think he's the same guy in terms of his competitive fire anymore. I honestly think he folded the 10 against Buckley, and that's just the way I see it, right? All you can do is call it the way you see it. And I've never seen Kelvin fold the 10. I've seen Kelvin get beat by guys that are better than him. I've seen Kelvin take an ass whooping like a man. I've never seen him fold the 10. And that for me is just a different thing. So that's a problem that I have with Luque coming into this one. I think he's got good skills, but the wins that he has are over RDA. RDA, who was, in between weight classes at best, and also at the very latter stages of his career where he's going to retire very soon if he hasn't already. And, you know, you look at Vicente Luque got absolutely outclassed and embarrassed by Bilal Muhammad when they rematched. And I say this again as a huge Vicente fan who expected him to knock Bilal's head off like he did the first time. What was the adjustment that Bilal made? He switched southpaw. And it was like Vicente Luque was like trying to speak in Chinese. It was just like the guy couldn't believe it. And he was like, what? No way. And he couldn't make adjustments over the course of the rounds. And it's like Bilal just styled on it as a result. And obviously Bilal's a high-level fighter. He went on to a championship. But people thought Vicente was going to be a champion. And the reason he wasn't was because he struggled to make those adjustments. He struggled to really improve the things that had always held him back. And high-level strikers have gotten to Vicente before, right? But way back in the day, Vicente could just take an ass whooping like no other. So Wonderboy Thompson's just painting a freaking masterpiece on this guy's face. And he's like, give me another one, please. I'll walk into it. And it's like, he didn't do that anymore, right? So now I just feel like you give him southpaw Kelvin Gastelum, who showed up fat for his last fight and missed weight, and, you know, probably has the UFC like, should we even keep this guy around? And Kelvin's been like a 500 middleweight since he moved up to this division, right? You give him the very best guys, he's going to lose those fights. You give him guys that are not that good, and he's probably going to win those fights and might even clip him on the chin. And I just think that Vicente Luque doesn't want to fight a southpaw. I don't think he's going to take the punches well. And I think Kelvin's more motivated to be here. So for all those reasons, I think Kelvin's going to win, and I think he's going to knock him out.
Oh, yeah, I'm motivated to be here. Let's go. Let's go. It's Kelvin TV Gastelum time. All right, we made it. This is Chuck Buffalo, Charles Radke. Let's go, you F-bombs. And I'm not.
Oh, my God. Did he cut out again? He cut out again. Unbelievable. Yeah.
The woke police got him because he was doing a Radke line, bro. He got pulled.
He got pulled. He really did. It's unbelievable.
Hokit's getting pulled too, man. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Really, really. Hokit's not getting pulled. If they don't pull Sean Strickland, you're not pulling Hokit. So you've got Chuck Buffalo Radke here and Francisco Prado. Prado's another guy that, like, I am actually just surprised how he's here. How is he here? He's had 5 UFC fights. This is his 6th. And he's lost 4 of them. And he's lost 3 in a row. I don't get it. I picked Veretennikov over him. I believe, Matthews over him. Everybody probably had Zellhuber over him. But if you're losing to Zellhuber, that is not a good sign. So I honestly think Chuck Buffalo's physicality here, the way he'll push and grind against the cage, his ability to just kind of get it done on whether it's on the feet or on the mat, I just think he's got a really good chance to win. So give me Chuck Buffalo here. But honestly, I don't think Chuck Buffalo gets the finish, because I don't necessarily believe that he'll be the first person to finish Francisco Prado. So give me Chuck Buffalo by decision. I'm sure it's nice and chalky. TB is here. I have to add him. He can't add himself. TB, please try again. We talked about the fight here. We're gonna go right to Liam after your breakdown.
All right, so Chuck Buffalo, he's probably going to have a big wrestling and grappling advantage. Francisco Prado, he will try to scramble and get up, but in that case, I feel like Chuck Buffalo probably gets some type of body triangle, and he's going to have success holding on to it, whereas Veretennikov was not the type of opponent who could do that, but he could still have success toppling Francisco Prado over. And also, he's a punching bag, so the reach advantage, the height advantage, the what are we doing fighting at this weight class advantage for, Francisco Prado, what are you doing here, brother? You should probably be back down in weight, but I know it wasn't working out for you there. But, like, he's got a big head and little arms, so he's not going to get knocked out. But he's also not going to win the fight. It's either submission or the fight goes the distance, but I got Chuck Buffalo to win it. Guru, I don't know if you know how to do the music outro, but clearly it's going to be on your end, when it comes to there. And Liam, what do you got on this last fight of the night? Keep in mind, we're doing our best out here.
Hey, brother, it's soldier hours. Don't you worry about a thing. I've had every tech issue you can imagine on the history of my show. I've had shows that my guest did the show because my internet cut out so bad I had to drive 2 towns over to get internet at my friend's house, you know? So don't sweat it at all, my man. I've seen it all. But I'll also just say, briefly on this fight, I think that, like, logically, Chuck is the side, like, just because he's the more skilled fighter. He's got way more experience at a high level. He's got wins in the UFC against the guy who's got a bunch of losses. He's the bigger guy. But if you wanted to make the case for Prado, it's a pretty simple case. He's the younger guy. I think he is a little bit more durable on the feet overall because the guy can be basically hit with a frying pan. And, Chuck Buffalo is like a human being. And, just on terms of the grappling, I think Chuck Buffalo is the better grappler. But I think Prado is the guy you'd expect to be making more improvements, right? He's a very young guy. He's training with a good team, and he's highly motivated, right? He needs this win for his job. And if we saw Trayshawn Gore, what's a guy willing to give when they're fighting for their job? They're willing to get close to getting knocked out, get back up, keep fighting, and win. And I just think that that's the kind of thing where that's the case you make for Prado is volume, youth, and durability. But I just haven't seen enough from him at the UFC level. He gave up 2 takedowns to Nikolai Veretennikov. Veretennikov has a 2-13 takedown ratio in the UFC, meaning he's given up 13 takedowns. He's got 2 of them, and they were both against Francisco Prado. So for me, that's just not a bullish sign. And I'm going to have to go with Chuck Buffalo here.
Yeah, to that point, right, Charles Rackey's going to be able to get it done in the grappling, the striking, whichever way he really wants to. Prado has not shown enough. And I guess that's it. I think Radke could be a parlay piece.
Yeah, put him with TB.
And Gastelum?
Yeah, just do it. Don't ask questions. It's going to be plus money.
I'd sooner do I don't know.
The first 2 fights, just get it out the way. If something goes wrong, you're cooking again. We'll be there trying to fight together. I think, we've had an absolutely amazing time tonight, but as you guys can see, things are happening, and it's not happening great. So,
he's got the Jimmy Neutron
what do you got to say
going
to the people before we let the guru get us out of here?
I got the quick, simplest exit here. God bless. Good luck. Enjoy those fights. And I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for having me, fellas.
Seriously, Liam, thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for the in-depth breakdowns. Seriously, man, you are a wealth of knowledge, and hopefully that wealth of knowledge translates to wealth in our pocket. So we're very much looking forward to the fights. Make sure you're following my unbelievable co-host, TB Scouting MMA. Go follow him on Twitter, Instagram, Picket, and Tapology. And you can follow me, the Guru Scouting MMA, over on Twitter, Instagram, Picket, Verdict, and Tapology. We will be back next week because, like we've always said, we never miss a week. Where are we next week? I don't even remember. Are we back in the Apex? Are we headed to? Where are we headed? Why can't I remember?
You're doing too much right now. You're doing way too much.
I really just want to remember, but I can't.
No. I think you should just do what you're supposed to do.
That's it. Everybody take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'm trying to play the music. I think it's playing. It's happening. Guys, everybody.
Volume's low, probably.
There it is. Be safe out there. And let's make some money.